So hi, my name is Christian Davidson. Today I'll be speaking about violence and abuse in relationships. Violence in the book of Choices in Relationships by David Knox and Caroline Schatt is defined as intentional infliction of physical harm by either partner on the other. Now there's two types of violence. The first type is situational couple violence. This is where conflict escalates over an issue and one or both partners lose control. Intimate terrorism is the second type of violence. This is behavior designed to control the other partner. Now, abuse is defined as when someone or something treats someone or something else with cruelty or violence, especially regularly or repeatedly. Now, there are many types of abuse. There's emotional abuse, there's spiritual abuse, and there's stalking. Now, emotional abuse aims to diminish another person's sense of identity, dignity, and self-worth that leads to anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts and/or actions, as well as PTSD. Now, spiritual abuse is the impairment of a partner's spiritual life, spiritual self, or spiritual well-being. Every 9 seconds in the U.S., women are assaulted. 85% of domestic violence victims are women. Women between ages of 20 and 24 are at greater risk of domestic violence. 324,000 of pregnant women each year experience domestic violence during their pregnancies. Domestic violence is the leading cause of injury to women. Another form of abuse is stalking. Stalking is the unwanted following or harassment that includes fear in a target person. As well as in-person stalking, there is cyber stalking, which is online stalking. Now, 80% of stalking cases are heterosexual males following previous lovers. The primary reasons why stalking occurs is because of being rejected by someone the stalker is obsessed with. So 15% of stalkers who are women, their most common victim is another woman. Now, you have stalking, you have emotional abuse, spiritual abuse. Another type of abuse and violence is rape. Now, rape is unlawful sexual activity and usually sexual intercourse carried out forcibly or under threat of injury against a person's will or with a person who is beneath a certain age or incapable of valid consent. Most rapes are not by strangers, but by people who have been previously acquainted with the victim. 85% of rapes are committed by people the victim knows. 14 to 25% of college women experience repeat sexual victimization during the same academic year, according to David Knox and Caroline Schatt in the book of Choices in Relationships. Now, another form of abuse is child abuse. Child abuse is any interaction or lack of interaction between a child and their caregivers that result in non-accidental harm both physically and mentally. 68% of children are victims of child abuse. Approximately 5 children die each day from child abuse. There are also 2.9 million cases per year of child abuse. 80% of adults who were abused as childs suffer from PTSD. All of this abuse and violence may eventually lead to homicides within the family. Even though family homicides do occur, it is very rare. The odds are 1 in 1,000. Violence and abuse Violence and abuse happens for a reason. Now, the reason strains anywhere from one's culture, their community, and even themselves or their families. Cultural facts. The cultural factors is the media, which is violence that is portrayed in the media. You have corporal punishment, which is beating your child or whooping your child. And 94% of parents use physical force during a kid's childhood. That force then leads to violence, depression, and a decrease in that child's social abilities as an adult. Another cultural factor is gender inequality. This is when men use aggression towards women because they feel like they are superior to them. Now, the community factor is poverty. Poverty is associated to crime and more frequent domestic violence due to the stressors of poverty, being stressed and not being able to bear the limits of poverty. Now, there are individual factors and family factors. Individual factors, they feel like they need to control, they feel unhappy and dissatisfied. Many abusers have low self-esteem, high levels of anxiety, depression, and hostility. They also suffer from emotional defects, which is when they claim they were not loved, nurtured, and shown emotions as a child. Now, family factors, this is when children learn abuse from violent and abusive family members. Children are more likely to be abusive to their parents when they become older because of the abuse that was endured when they were a child. Majority of children use this factor to steer away from abusing their own family when they become older. Now, the way to prevent violence and abuse within relationships, prevention for rape is self-defense lessons. You can take assertive training. You can go to rape prevention programs. And also when you're in high school, you can take sexual assault peer education. Now, not only do women take this class, but men take this class as well. How you prevent stalking is direct statements to the stalker, use protection through law enforcement, you can avoid the stalker, and you can ask others for tips and help as well. Now, the main method for preventing stalking is direct statements. Preventing domestic abuse, you need to use healthy and safe relationship skills. You need to disrupt people's progress towards domestic violence, and you need to support survivors of intimate abuse, as well as practicing self-care and self-wellness. Now, I thank you for coming to my speech today. I hope you take these tips and these tricks and you're well informed on how to prevent and go about violence and abuse within relationships.